Welcome back. This is Chicken Philosophy, the Meccan Revelations, part 48, in which we'll pick up right where BT left off in part 47. All right. Good morning. It's actually, the sun, it's that way's east, and I've got the red curtains, and so I wanted to film before the yoga and cardio, because sunlight. So I got the artificial white light over here, the red light over here on the blue. I just thought that'd be nice for purely aesthetic purposes. As a result of my aesthetic needs, this is my actual first cup of coffee for the day. That never happens. It's always at least my 7th or 8th cup of coffee that you see. Maybe 4th or 5th. I'm exaggerating slightly. 3rd or 4th, let's say, just for the record. The old record. So yeah, and this is the cast of, not the cast, this is the list of the characters from TVD. And for today, we're gonna be pretty normal. I'd say pretty normal. How normal? I don't know. If Cafe de Anatolia is playing, then we're pretty normal. I became self-conscious about the music for a minute there, but now I think I'm okay. I think I'm alright. Someone was like, yeah, don't use music while you're talking. Just use it in the intro and the outro. It was a very nice, the rest of the comment was very nice, but I was like, oh, I don't know. It's me. It's totally my ego issues that advice in the form of a command, just the phraseology. I'm not saying. Anyway, yeah, it's just like a bee in my brain, bee in my bonnet bouncing around, and I have to be like, okay, I have to prove that the music is important by using 58 songs in a single recital and having the music change mid-sentence to fit the tone of that half of the sentence. Sometimes Editor Edward can just plop a track of Cafe de Anatolia in, I'd say. Especially if it's new and arabesque and it's Meccan Revelation. That's the rules that I've made up. And I know that it's a little confusing because most YouTube channels want people to like them. They want to grow. They want to go viral. And though I am using the platform, YouTube, I am none of those things. I am doing this because I want to. I'm doing it the way that I want to because I enjoy watching it. And if anybody else is watching it and enjoying it, that is a pleasant side effect of, well, you know, anyway. I guess that's about all the preamble. I'm also, this is like probably, I think I might have spoken 12 words before I hit record. I mean, in this day. I woke up and I went, took down the mosquito tent and made coffee. Anyway, so here we go. Let's see what our old friend Ibn al-Arabi is up to today. So we're continuing in the section called God's Signs. We had read about a page, two and a half pages of that, ish. Here we go. No foot of theirs reaches a firm foundation to him. Mental note, Edward, Don't let your sleeve hang over the back of the armrest and then lift it straight up forcefully. Your kimono doesn't like that. I've forgotten a number of things. We'll get back to the Meccan Revelations. See, this is what happens when my brain hasn't quite switched on. This is the incense we're burning today. It smells quite lovely. I wish you could smell it. But I hesitate to wish that there's a little scent microphone on whatever the iPhone 25 or whatever that directly interacts with the chip that's that Elon has made mandatory in people's brains. There, you can have that for free, Black Mirror, for what are you up to, season 7? All right. Finished the incense, and now we've got to do the Hafiz, because there are 2 books that we involve on the Meccan Revelations recitals on chicken philosophy. The first being The Gift by Hafiz, the second being volume 1 of the Meccan Revelations. So, before we get to... Let's change the music. See, I don't know. Cafe Anatolia is okay. The first couple times I used it, I was like, oh, this is cool. It's got a beat, and it's got a little bit of an arabesque thing. Sometimes I have to edit out the vocals or make it very, very quiet when there's vocals. But I don't know. I feel like it's lazy, and it's overplayed. It's overdone. We've done enough of the Cafe Anatolia. So, I don't know, Editor Edward, I leave it up to you. This is very long. We don't need a long one. Oh, we tried to... Did we read this one? Here we go. What should we do about that moon? A wine bottle fell from a wagon and broke open in a field. That night 100 beetles and all their cousins gathered and did some serious binge drinking. They even found some seed husks nearby and began to play them like drums and whirl. This made God very happy. Then the, quote, night candle, end quote, rose into the sky, and one drunk creature, laying down his instrument, said to his friend, for no apparent reason, quote, what should we do about that moon? End quote. Seems to Hafiz, most everyone has laid aside the music, tackling such profoundly useless questions. Yes, tackling profoundly useless questions is what we do here on Chicken Philosophy. That's our bread and butter. And if you've noticed, I've never had any bread and butter here. And that's because it's useless, and so it doesn't I don't get paid. And so anyway, no, I like it. I dig it. What should we do about that moon? That is the subtext question to whatever this is that we're going to read. Okay. Shifting gears from, let's put up the Hafiz to Ibn Arabi spectrum. We're going to move all the way over from Hafiz to the other side of the brain. But we're still using the whole brain, but with an emphasis on. See, the idea, the 100 years ago idea, is that the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. And the right side of the body is dominant because everyone's right-handed, right? And heterosexual. Not a single person in the world, except for deviants, are left-handed. That's what they used to say. I mean, they used to people used to have to force themselves to be right-handed. Fortunately, most people were illiterate, so it was only never mind. Anyway, 2025, good time to be left-handed, and whatever else. You can find a spot where you fit in. Anyway, all right. No foot of theirs reaches a firm foundation in him. No clear path to him appears for them, since they see him as identical to the sign and the path. This contemplation stands between them and seeking the end of the path. For paths are traversed to their ends, while the goal is with them.
Taekwon Leap is not a path to a door, but a road leading forever towards the horizon.
Anyway, he is the kind compassion. There is no wayfarer, and no way upon which to fare. Oh, get a little zen with your Taoism there, Ibn Arabi, the Sufi. There is no way. Oh, it's not only a road leading forever toward the horizon. There is no road.
There is no spoon.
That too. How are you going to eat your cereal on the road when there's no spoon and no road? Getting deep this morning. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Allusions. That's with an A. So it's when you're alluding to something. Like if I say, hey, looking like Adam and Eve today in that outfit. Then I'm making a biblical allusion. Whereas if I say, hey, I think there's a lake. It looks like there's a lake up on the horizon here in this boiling desert. Not boiling, in this would-be boiling desert where there's no water. And someone were to say, no, see, that's a trick of the desert is so hot that it's causing an illusion with an I. That's called a mirage. That's not really a lake. It's an illusion. Is that right? So illusion. So this is allusion. Sorry. Illusions disappear. They are nothing but he. Expressions perish. They are only of him. The knower cannot be rebuked for that part of the world which enraptures him, and whose waymarks, and those waymarks which he perfumes. Hopefully with incense and not the natural scent that emanates from him as he walks through the desert searching for mirages. Yes, lowercase h on that he, which means he can get smelly. God also can get smelly, but it's every smell and no smell. Where mankind needs a bath regularly. Just saying. I hope it's not too controversial of me. Anyway, were not the situation as we mentioned it, no profit, and that's with a PH, as in, you will find a candy wrapper on the sidewalk today, thus saith the Lord. Not, hey, I made a little more money than I spent today running my business. That's profit with a F-I. This is profit with a P-H-E. Sometimes prophets can make a profit, and that's where the poets get to have a little fun. Yes. Were not the situation as we mentioned it, no prophet or messenger. See, from the context, unless we're talking about like a messenger service, someone like a courier. There's no prophet in being a messenger. Something like that. Then it'd be the other prophet. I'll just keep reading. Sorry. Sometimes we get stuck in a little... no prophet or messenger would have loved wife or child. Hopefully in at least slightly different ways. If not entirely. Nor would any have preferred one thing over another. All right. This derives from the relative preference of the signs. What sign are we in now? Are we still in Pisces? I prefer fish tonight. Next up, we've got ram. I'll be eating nothing but ram all month. And then Taurus. And then the twins. That's my favorite month. Anyway, no. From a culinary... This derives from the... of the signs. The world's transformation is identical with the signs, which are not other than the, quote, tasks, end quote, upon which is God. Quote, he has raised one of them above another in degree. Quran 43:32. Very reminiscent of a Zen koan. I forget the name of the... There was a monk and there was a teacher and a student monk. And the teacher said something and the monk said, could you please explain that to me? And the teacher said, come walk with me. And they walked in silence until they got to a little pond with some reeds. And the teacher pointed at two of the reeds and said, there's a long one, there's a short one. And poof, the student had his satori. Stories came a little easier back then. I think something of the global warming or something. It takes a little more these days. All right. They didn't have TV. They didn't have YouTube. So all they had were reeds. It's hard to... doesn't translate well into 2025. Anyway, he has raised one of them above another in degree, because through that form he has become manifest in his names, with a capital H and a capital N. Thus, we know the relative preference of some over others through generality and specificity. For example, bracket parentheses, God says, and bracket parentheses, quote, he is independent of the worlds, end quote, Quran 3:97. That's what we call panentheism. I used to think I was a pantheist until I read the definition of panentheist. Basically, God is everything and then some. Right? Instead of just God is everything. Like every thing, physical thing, or mental thing. Never mind, I'll just keep reading. While he also says, quote, I created jinn and men. That's not the stuff you drink unless you're into some really weird practices that I would like to hear about. It's the Jinn. I created jinn and men only to worship me, end quote. It's not my favorite Quran quote. Unless we tweak the definition of worship, then it could be. Did I say, yeah, Quran 51:56. And we've heard it before. Ibn Arabi, I repeat myself too, so I'd be a hypocrite if I were to. Anyway, how can the Creator compare to the independent Oh, names. These are names for God. Ah. And they don't include... That's annoying. If you're going to do names for God, I'm speaking to Michelle Chodkowitz, if he's talking about names for God, and then capitalizing something like creator and capitalizing something like independent, indicating that these are names of God, please, in these cases, and no need to do it in the other cases, but in these cases specifically, could you phonetically transliterate the Arabic name itself into parentheses so that I can learn the fucking names of God? What's the point in reading about the names of God if you forget to include the names of God or you only give the English translations? Calm yourself, Gwydion. Calm. It's a very weird thing to be upset about. All right. I'm okay. Okay. So, yes. How can the Caesar, and that's S-I-E, S-E-I-Z-E-R, or Al-Kabid, thank you, Michelle Chodkowitz and friends, for listening to me in the previous sentence and retroactively having gone back and added the Arabic names to at least some of the capitalized names of God. So Caesar. Al-Kabid, the Caesar, all right, and the preventer, Al-Mani. Compare to the creator. Don't know that one. How can the compass of the knower, with a capital K, be compared to that of the powerful Al-Qadir, and the triumphant Al-Kabir? And is not all of this exactly what happens in the world? You tell me. One thing this reminds me of that I enjoy is the idea that you'll find in the Golden Dawn system of tarot. You'll see it next time. It's the one that goes here every time BT does a Carl Jung. Anyway, when it's minor arcana, in other words, the ones that are reminiscent of the playing cards, like 3 of clubs, 4 of hearts, or in this case, 3 of whatever, pentacles, and 4 of swords, or whatever, you know. Or the Queen of Swords, like they have those in playing cards too. The ones that aren't, Magician, Fool, not in that order, High Priestess, you know, those, Hierophant, Universe, World, whatever, Judgment. Those are the trumps. I'm taking it back. Anyway. Those are the major arcana. So the minor arcana, the twos through the nines. Hopefully, I've got this correct. Not the aces, not the tens, not the court cards, but the 2s through the 9s, each correspond with 2 of the 72 angels of the Shemhem Pharesh, which, if you've seen this movie, I believe it's called Pi, then that's amusing. He spends a good portion of the movie trying to find the 216 something related to the 72. It's an all right movie. I enjoyed it. What's my point? My point is, each of those 36 cards corresponds to 2 of the Shemhem Pharesh angels. Usually one is kind of masculine, one is kind of feminine. In other words, the last part of the angel's name is L for the feminine ones and AI for the masculine ones. Although sometimes they're both I and sometimes they're both L. And anyway, these cards have different, if you've ever played around with a tarot deck or taken one seriously, either one, or just looked at it, they have different definitions, like single words or double words that are included on the cards. In the case of the Golden Dawn Ritual Tarot by Chickens Hunter Tabitha Cicero. Sorrow, peace restored, rest from strife, that's 3 words. Ruin, pleasure, blended pleasure. Now this is back in a time when pleasure meant, like, what is your pleasure? I like to fish, like that kind of thing. I find it fulfills my soul. It gives me much pleasure, I'd say, Frank. Whereas these, it's, what is your pleasure? It has a little bit of a different connotation. So it's kind of funny to be like, oh, pleasure, loss and pleasure. Oh. So yeah, anyway, these 36 cards that I'm referring to right now have titles such as these. And so it's interesting, especially when you consider this, whatever, like the 72 are on there's 24 little things growing on these 4 letters, and then each of them have 3 little sprouts, 3 little hairs or grass leaves sticking off of them. Anyway, so this is the name of God, and the name of God is made up of sorrow, pleasure, ruin, strife, rest from strife, conflict, resolution. So it's kind of like, taking that idea that as above, so below almost gets there. You don't necessarily immediately arrive at a non-dual state of consciousness from a statement like as above, so below. You have to contemplate it for a while. But yeah, well, if that's the case, the Emerald Tablet Cliff Notes is true, then we need only look at the below to get an idea of what the above must look like, as it is written in the book of Genesis that mankind is made in the image of God. Right? So, yeah, all these different things. And so, yeah, then there's 2 ways to look at that. One is, that kind of brings down the mystery of God to the level of things like sorrow and rest from strife and pleasure and loss and pleasure. Or does it? Or does it elevate the human experience to its proper divinity? I don't know, something. These are just some ideas to bounce around with. Well, like what are we going to do about that moon? That's what we're asking ourselves here. What are we going to do about that moon? Nothing. By the way, those bugs reminded me of this. Won't play too much of that with the music at the same time, because sometimes they get upset. Oh no, this one was fine. This one, they let me use Devo in their kindness. Yeah, this is the day my baby gave me a surprise. If you want to see more of things like that, then please feel free to check out We're All Devo. That was probably the beta recording that I watched more than any other beta recording, except for maybe Tron, when I was a wee lad back in the 80s. Let's keep reading. Why not? Yeah, the powerful and the triumphant. Oh, okay. And is not all of this exactly what happens in the world? Right. So God is the triumphant, the powerful, the knower, the creator, the preventer, the Caesar, the creator, and the independent. Those are all names of God. Are they not also names of mankind? Humans? Right? You and I have many names. Many of them don't go together. Oscar the Grouch. Sometimes it's true. You've seen it. If you've seen, well, I think I got a little grouchy earlier in this episode. Not seriously, but yeah, grouchy person, hungry person, all kinds of persons, all kinds of names that could accurately apply to you and I that seem to contradict one another. Kind of like God. Coincidence? Hence, no messenger or saint exercised free disposal except in him. Quote, but most people do not know, end quote, Quran 7:187. And that is because there are among people those in whose ears is a heaviness. Quran 6:25. There were no quotes around that one. Is the ears a heaviness? Are you quoting the Quran? I don't have a copy of the Quran, so I can't check it out. Check. And I don't want to Google that because I don't want to end up on a list or something. No, I'm just kidding. Half kidding. Quote, upon whose eyes is a covering. End quote. Quran 45:23. Upon whose heart is a lock. 47:24. They're just like flipping a coin. Should we put quotes around this one? Nah. Should we put quotes around this one? Yeah, why not? Should we put quotes around this one? Nah. That's the way to do your Quran quotes, guys. In whose reflection is bewilderment, in whose knowledge is doubt, and in whose hearing is deafness. But by God, in the knower's view, all of this is nothing but excess proximity. Is that when the veils are so close? When the veils of manifestation are veiling your ability to see the manifestation of the veils, or something like that. There was something. Let's play that.
He appeared as light, and then got veiled from sights by his light. He manifested, but got concealed from insights by virtue of his manifestation. Thus light entered in light, and self-manifestation got concealed in manifestation.
Yeah. So that was something I read toward the beginning of Esoteric Nerd Podcast episode 10, and by me I mean BT in this particular case. All right. In whose reflection is bewilderment. Yeah, we read that already. Quote, we are nearer to him than you, but you do not see. End quote. Quran 56:85. Quote, we indeed created man, and we know what his soul whispers within him, and we are nearer to him than the jugular vein. End quote. Who's talking? Is it we, God, as in we, the Elohim, created man in our image, and in our image created the Elohim, them, or whatever, and all that? God as plural? Sure, why not? There's precedent for that. It happens all the time. Unless you read the English translation, and then the gods get translated as the Lord. And the Lord created them in his own image. Seems an accurate translation of the gods created them in their own image. Pronouns, right? Fucking always with the even in ancient. We indeed created. Quran 50:16. How can whispering compare with inspiration? ASMR. How can the name, quote, man, end quote, compare with the name, the, quote, knower, end quote? Who are Layla, Lubna? Who are Hind, Bathna? I think you've mistaken me for a guy who's read the Quran. I'm sure these are characters that I should know, but I don't. Who are Kais, Bishr? Are they not all he? Either it's a pronoun thing, linguistic thing, and I'm reading too much into it, or Ibn Arabi's doing that whole Advyata. I always forget the first word, but the second word by itself works. Vedanta. It's a Sanskrit word. People don't really throw it around in casual speech. It means self, basically. It's the Vedanta thing, the Ashtavakra Gita thing. Who are Sarah, John, Paul, and Samuel, if not he? Without a footnote, without an asterisk. Sounds like blasphemy to me. Oh, I love it. I am obsessed with love for him, with a capital H, so it isn't gay. No, it is, obviously. Anyway, sorry. For his engendered existence is mine. All creatures are my beloved. So where is he who enraptures me? He who searches my words will find therein a clear explanation. Did Ibn Arabi just drop some poetry on us? Not used to that. He's stepping out of his usual stereo instructions. Okay. As for those who cling to accidental beauty and accidental love. Oh, I will pass on some wisdom that one of my favorite people, one of my teachers, Gwydion, taught me. He said, the Buddha didn't say this, but Gwydion said, the Buddha said, if you want to get rid of suffering, then you have to renounce all desire. But if you want to keep the desire, you have to embrace the suffering. You have to be into the thorns and then smell the rose and squeeze the thorns and go, ouch, I love it. That's how you want to live your life. Unless you prefer the other path where you're like, no thank you, I don't need to smell the rose. Besides, then I would get thorns poking. No thank you. Either one, they're both good. But it's a little misguided to expect to smell the rose and not get poked by the thorns and complain about it. I had all this attachment and now it's gone and it hurts. Yeah, that goes with attachment. That checks out. I was drawing a circle and I started drawing it and I came back around and it finished and I reached the beginning where I started. Then I'm upset about it. Yeah, that's true. Right? You don't hear the people who've renounced all attachments complaining that they're not suffering. So why are you complaining that you are? That's the path you chose. It's okay. It's okay to suffer. It's the price you pay for the joy of attachment. Not to be confused with love. Love is something else entirely, except for the definitions of love that also mean attachment, like eros. Some of the other ones do. Never mind. There's a kind of like physical connection, I think. And the thing is, they all exist simultaneously. So it can be confusing, especially because the physical one is heavier and more noticeable and more tangible. That on a higher level, we know that we're still as much one with that which we miss as we ever were. And on a middle level, we can enjoy memories, the fond memories, and experiencing whatever it is in its totality now that it's gone, rather than the specific moment that we're in. But then on the physical level, we can't touch it, and that for the what is called the animal or the nefesh in some context, the physical entity, the part of ourselves that's like the one that interfaces with this stuff, has a hard time with the separation from that to which it has become attached, and it sucks. It's rough. I don't mean to make light of it. Okay. As for those who cling to accidental beauty, not to be confused with American Beauty and that creep. Never mind. And accidental love. Is there a movie called Accidental Love? If not, get on that, Hollywood. That's a good title. Accidental Love. Mm-hmm. That is only a vanishing shadow. Yeah. An accident on display. And a falling wall. In contrast with what there is for those who have knowledge of God. Right. In the view of the man of God's knowledge, the shadow has prostrated itself before God. And in this context, prostrate refers to the gland that... No, it's like doing pranams, genuflecting, sort of. Bowing down. There was a word. Showing obeisance. There's an old-timey English word. Anyway, and the wall does not lean except in worship in order to make manifest what lies beneath it. The sentence goes on. What lies beneath it? The treasures of Gnostic sciences. Gnostic, you say? No, he said something in Arabic, and Michel Chodkowitz was like, let's translate that into Gnostic. Yeah, people will go nuts. I certainly did. That deliver the aware knower from need. That is why God created jealousy in the form of Qadir, who straightened the reclining wall, because he knew there was no aptitude, bracket parentheses, for knowledge, and bracket parentheses, in its owner at that time. So the treasure would have been used improperly. Bracket parentheses, he wanted, and bracket parentheses, it to be discovered after some time. The Nag Hammadi? What are we talking about here? I don't know. For it had become manifest. For if it had become manifest, it would have been taken uselessly and used wickedly. All right? Read a little more. So glory be to him who lays down decrees, sets up signs, and manifests the beauty of denotations. It takes a certain specific kind of scholastic nerd to use a phrase like the beauty of denotations. I mean, I get it. I am such a nerd, but not nerd but like nerd, comma, but 3 dots. All right. Among the most beautiful in entity and the most perfect in engendered existence is the world of imagination, through which, quote, God strikes similitudes, end quote, Quran 13:17, etc. He has explained that he alone has knowledge of it, for he said in prohibition, quote, so strike not any similitudes for God. Surely God knows, and you know not. End quote. All right. Quran 16:74, the old don't worship a golden calf thing, right? He only brought this verse after he struck similitudes for himself for our sake. Where are they? What do they look like? Where may I worship them accidentally in this place? Sorry. Thus, the world of imagination became manifest to engendered existence. This is the introduction. Oh, I kind of dig that. Oh, I kind of dig that. While it is rude when people take this whole, like, no idols, no graven images of gods thing too seriously and go and, like, blow up other people's thousands of years old graven images of gods, or even of, like, bodhisattvas. Like, nobody's worshiping. Well, okay, that one guy is worshiping. A few people are worshiping. And the point is, aside from setting aside the problematicness of destroying other people's idols, just taking the idea of, like, have no idols. Thou shalt not make a graven image of me, or thou shalt not make. Oh, have you seen this? This is an icon of God the Father that you only find this in Russian Orthodoxy, because at one point there were people that were saying we should have no symbols, just no icon, no image. These is like idols. We've been hanging out with Muslims and we think that we should listen to Moses and get rid of all these idols. So they had an ecumenical council. I think it was the 6th one, if I'm not mistaken. This was before the Great Schism, so when the Eastern Orthodox and the Roman Catholic were still one church, they all got together and said, these are icons. They're not idols. They're meant to help us to connect with these ideas and these stories, especially since most people are illiterate, so... and we're speaking in a language they don't know, so we'll just be over here going in Latin, and they'll be like, what are you talking about? And then we'll just point at the pictures, and they'll go, oh, nice pictures. Like that, it's not where nobody's worshiping the pictures, right? But someone said, but to actually, like, it's an image of the Son, of Jesus? Like, well, the whole point of God being made manifest was so that we might behold him in human form. So, of course, it's fine to make a depicted image of Jesus. Nobody's going to worship the image and mistake it for the Jesus. You can worship Jesus through the image, but, it's not the image, not the tile. It's not the paint that you're worshiping. It's Jesus and thus God through the image of Jesus. So it's fine. And they're like, well, what about God the Father? Like old man God, like Jesus, but wrinklier with long gray beard and this kind of thing. And everybody unanimously was like, oh yeah, that's fucked. That's too far. No, nobody should do that. The Holy Spirit's fine. It's a dove. Mary, the saints, animals, everything can be depicted in an icon, in iconography, on the inside of a church, the outside of a church, doesn't matter, a shrine, except for one thing, and that's Old Man God the Father. And the Russians were like, what? You want us to do more of Old Man God the Father? We can't hear you. We do not speak your language. Я не говорю по-экуменски, said the Russians. And so they continued to make many abundant varieties of iconographic images of Old Man God, God the Father. What was I saying?
Hi. So this is an example of one of those times that my mouth is moving and I'm trying to represent things in objective reality with my words, but I don't have a book or a screen in front of me, so it's all coming out of here somewhere. Coming more or less, what was the name of that restaurant? Well, it doesn't matter the name of the restaurant. Maybe I'll think of it. From conversations that likely happened at 2 a.m., where my friend Alex, who was the one who got me into Greek Orthodoxy, but then I ended up going toward Russian Orthodoxy, but the Vatican version, it was a different time. Anyway, so yeah, he'd give me all these tidbits of information, and maybe he was kind of casually putting together the data, or maybe I was casually remembering the data, or mishearing. And then I could resort to like, well, it's an Eddie Izzard style of history. You wouldn't, nitpick and criticize Eddie Izzard for Henry VIII didn't turn his wife into jelly. No, but clearly the jelly thing was meant to be a joke, where the factual misinformation that slips through in some of my free-flowing history lessons is actually factual misinformation. What factual misinformation, Edward? Good question. Just small things. Basically, just that there were other Orthodox. Then we're talking like 800s, 700s. Obviously, in more recent times, there's God the Father on the ceiling of the Vatican, the famous Adam and God thing. So we're not talking about that. It's talking specifically about Byzantine Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox iconography styles, mostly between like the 8th and 11th centuries. When this was all kind of an issue. So just two and a half things. It was particularly popular in Russia for some reason to depict God the Father, but it was also seen here and there throughout the rest of Orthodoxy, which includes obviously Greece and the Middle East and North Africa and whatnot. And then when it was cracked down on in Russia because it was more popular in Russia, so it wasn't really, there wasn't an issue, like particular movement against depictions of God the Father, as far as I can tell from some just quick Googling, anywhere but in Russia. So there was that misinformation that Russia didn't get the memo. No, they were the only ones getting the memo, but they were kind of mostly the only ones doing the depicting of God the Father in their iconography. Also, it wasn't that, just a slight, this is more of a silly thing, when Gwydion was saying, you can depict anything and everything except for God the Father. No, not quite. It was more that there was a list, kind of like Athanasios's list of the 27 acceptable texts in the late 300s. This was a list of, I don't know exactly how many, but probably fewer than 100, I would imagine, things that were okay to depict in iconography, which included probably many saints, right? And God the Father was not on the list.
Oh yeah, no, okay. But what this last line kind of struck me is that the reason why God doesn't want you to make an image of God to worship is because he's already given you the image of himself. And that image is the world of imagination. The whole thing. The Matrix. I mean, not The Matrix, the movie The Matrix. The, like all the paintings and all the weird fantasies that occur to you, all of that. That's all God. That's all God. According to God in the Quran. I mean, in Ibn Arabi's something. I don't know, but I enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. And next time on Chicken Philosophy, I don't know if I'm ready to start actually alternating with Buddhist books. We did a Buddhist books as per Edward's instruction in the previous episode, The Secret of the Golden Flower. So we did jump back in. It had been a full month since in between Tipitaka episodes. So at that rate, it will take 1,000 years to finish the Tipitaka. So we are going to have to adjust the rhythm a bit. perhaps 2 chicken philosophies for every 1 Buddhist book, something like that. That last episode we did yesterday is right there. TP Talker 172, if you're into that. I think it's a little bit good toward the end, I think, if I recall correctly. And next time on Chicken Philosophy, it'll be, as I mentioned, BT doing Carl Jung, which means he'll put the cards up on the big board. And is there anything else? Any other announcements? I feel like there is. Oh, did I run it? How many times have I pointed to the corner of the screen? I took the last, 12 minutes of Secret of the Golden Flower Part 15. That was the one where I shared the visual depiction of Pymander doing the thing that my dad taught me when I was 6, while another me was guiding others through it and quickly explaining what's happening while it's happening. So if you wanna know that meditation, and if you're curious, it's basically it was, my dad maybe added a slight thing here and there, like the clap at the end, and these little things, and the ringing the bells after the first Om Home. But it was taught to him by Andrew de Pisano in the Church of Hermetic Sciences in the early 80s. And Andrew had gotten it from his teacher, so-and-so, and so-and-so had gotten it from the Tibetan in the 1930s in Milan, Italy. So the point is, my dad taught it to me, and that's what makes it special to me as far as its specific place in the grand scheme of things. I don't know, 1930s Milan. Supposedly from a Tibetan is where it comes from. And that's this. It's called That Thing My Dad Taught Me When I Was 6, because that seems like a better way to identify it than all that other stuff. And I'm pretty darn sure that I've used 5 cards. So yeah. So I won't add the 6th one that I have in mind. And it's not worth doing an end screen for. All right, that's it. All right, I'll do an end screen. I'm going to create a playlist with the 3 or 4 interviews that I did with. So my dad learned, like I said, that meditation from Andrew de Pisano. Then he passed away. Then over the years, I forgot the meditation. And then one day I found a Facebook group where other students of Andrew de Pisano were getting together to talk about the old days. And so I went there and I asked around, and I'm like, what were the words of the meditation? And they were like, oh, you mean, Rin, O, Ah, Hung, E, and Om? And I was like, holy shit, thank you so much. And then I was able to reconstruct from my memory how my dad used to teach it, and then I was able to reintroduce that back into my work, which was nice because it was right at the point where I was moving away from the Golden Dawn group thing so that I could detach myself from the organization. And so I had this new old thing from my childhood that I combined with regular, asana yoga practice and becoming a yoga teacher, and kind of shifted currents, hence the schizophrenia between BT and Pymander and their different robes. What are we talking about? Yeah, so I'm going to make a playlist of the Andrew episodes. I haven't made it yet as I'm speaking to you, but I'm going to do it. Editor Edward's going to do it. It'll be a simple thing. And that's going to be in the end screen. If you want to hear me have conversations with people about the guy who taught that meditation to my dad, that'll be there for the 1 or 2 people that are interested in that. And if you're not, I get it. Neither am I. I mean, I was once, so I get it. But I'm not anymore, so I get that too. All right. That's about enough out of me. Cheers. It's empty. Till next time.